What's going on, traders? In this video, I'm going to show you guys how I go about trading supply and demand zones slash order blocks. But before we get into that, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. First things first, let's go over the time frames that we're going to be using on this video. So in this video, we're just specifically going to be focused on the 4-hour, 2-hour, and 30-minute. But me personally, I use the weekly, daily, 4-hour, 2-hour, and 30 minutes. Now, you don't necessarily have to use the weekly time frame for this strategy. This is more so of a personal preference. And the daily, we're not going to focus on in this video. But once you understand the strategy, you'll have a better idea on how to use the daily time frame in order to implement within the strategy. All right. So that's pretty much all I have as far as time frames go. 4-hour, we're going to use to mark our zones. 2-hour, we're going to use to watch for breaks of those zones. And then 30 minutes, we're looking for a retest of those zones and an entry. Okay, so that's how I go about using time frames. It's important to understand that I am mostly a swing trader. So if you're a day trader or a scalper, you probably want to backtest this strategy to see if it resonates with your trading style. Other than that, let's get straight into it. So 4-hour time frame, again, we're just marking our zones. So how do you go about marking or making supply and demand zones? So if you're a trader that mostly talks about support and resistance or focuses on support and resistance, you're pretty much halfway there. So all you do is mark your key levels, and you look for your key levels, of course, and you look for the highest point or the lowest point based on the direction of the stock that you're trading. So in this case, we're going to use Apple because I believe Apple is one of the easiest stocks to trade and understand, and very, very beginner friendly, if you ask me. So all we're doing is marking our key level here at the highest point at the top of this wick. Hopefully you guys can see this. And then we're going to turn that into a zone. So all you're going to do is start at the top of your key level or resistance, and then you drag your zone all the way to the opening of the nearest bullish candle. And that's it. Congratulations, you just made a supply and demand zone. And this is how institutions trade. Institutions trade based off supply and demand zones or order blocks, whichever one you decide to call them. All right. Same thing here. And you can keep doing this, right? So you just find the highest point. So right here, you're just looking for the highest point, which is this wick here. Mark it, and then you simply turn it to a zone. And you drag it down all the way to the opening of the nearest bullish candle, which is right here. And that's it, or the next candle, okay, because the market moves forward, right? And that's it. That's how you do supply and demand zones. As far as if you want to make a support level supply and demand zone order block, it's the same thing, but in reverse. You find the lowest point, you mark it, and then all you're doing is finding the nearest red candle as an opening. So this will be your open. I mean, not your open, but this will be where your zone is. And that's it. Pretty simple. All right. Really, really simple. Nothing complicated about it. If you already know how to mark support and resistance, then you can pretty much understand how to mark your supply and demand zones. Next, so we're going to remove all these, and then we're just going to start from scratch once again. You're going to mark your zone up here, and that's it. Now, after that, all you're going to do is go to your 2-hour time frame, and then you're just looking for a break of this zone. That's all you're doing. I don't do anything else on the 2-hour time frame. Whatever time frame you're basing your trades off of, you probably okay, would do what works for you, but what I do is I don't use it to mark zones or trend lines or supply and demand. I use the higher time frames for that. So if I'm focused on the 2-hour time frame for breaks, then I'm using every time frame above the 2-hour time frame to mark my key levels. All right, that's how I trade because those key levels are stronger than the 2-hour time frame. Right, because if you're trading off if you're marking key levels on the 4-hour time frame, then those key levels are stronger than anything the 2-hour time frame can give you. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So next, all you're doing is looking for a break of this key zone. So actually, we're just going to enter replay mode real quick. And all we're doing, again, is looking for a break of this zone. So obviously we know what happens right here. So we broke the zone. Next, you're going to go down to your 30-minute time frame, and you're looking for a retest. All right. Nope, not yet. Now you're looking for a break back down out the zone, and there you have it. So one thing I skipped over right here is when we break back out of the zone, I use the projection tool to see where I can make, how much profit I could potentially make. Okay, or my profit taking target to make it more simple, right? So my entry that I'm looking to get in on Apple is 194.5, and my profit taking will be at around 191.5. Which makes this even better is that we have a gap fill here, or a gap here, right? So that will be my target. I'm looking to enter at around 194, 195, and I'm looking to take profit at around this gap fill. Forex Forex traders typically use this projection tool a lot. I don't know why no one on the stock market side uses this, or maybe they do. Maybe it's just some super secret or something. But this thing accounts for everything. It accounts for support and resistance. It accounts for 200 daily SMA. It accounts for everything. It accounts for gaps, as you guys can see. It pretty much said, hey, you're going to make profit all the way down to this gap. So again, all we're doing is going down 30 minutes, and then we go down to a 30-minute time frame, and we're just looking for an entry. And here is our entry right here. Speed this up a little bit. And you're in profit. You're currently in profit, and boom, there you go. Gap is filled, right? And that's it. It's really that simple, okay? And you are going to win a lot more than not using supply and demand zones versus, in my opinion, it's just plain support and resistance, okay? And you can continue to do this. Actually, let's go back. And as you guys can see, even here, and this is just for example. Again, I don't mark anything on the 2 hour time frame, but again, here you have another the supply and demand zone. What did I do? All I did was mark the top of the highest wick, and then I just looked for the closest bullish candle and marked and dragged it all the way down to the opening of that candle. Simple. And then as you guys can see, we broke back out of this supply and demand zone, and we headed much lower. Okay. So again, we can use the projection tool here to see. Yep. So we wicked all the way down to about 189. So if you would have re-entered another position here at around 192.5, dragged it all the way down to 189, you would have made more profit on Apple. Okay. And that's the strategy. Okay. It's really that simple. All right. So let's just continue playing this and see if we can just continue going for it. So zooming out, my next target here will be this gap fill all the way down here, because I have, at this point, I have reason to believe that Apple is trying to break down because we just keep destroying all these supply and demand zones. So my next target will be here towards this gap fill down here, right? So let's actually mark this. So now what are we doing? We're looking for another opportunity to get into a trade. We already made two trades or one trade, however you want to take it, and we are pretty much deep in profit, right? So now we were looking for another opportunity to enter into this another trade to get towards this gap fill. All right. So let's get into replay mode. Let's actually slow replay mode down before it goes crazy. Boom. So right here, I can mark another zone. Same thing. So now all I'm looking for is obviously this candle wouldn't been formed yet, but we'll go down to the 2 hour time frame, and we're just looking for a break. So we already got our break, right? So we broke here, we retested, and then we broke back down. Okay. So pretty simple, right? Then you go down to your 30-minute, and you're just looking for an entry at this point. So you can consider this a retest. It's really up to you. I personally wouldn't. You may or may not get your retest here. It depends. Okay. If you want to be risky and take it, go by all means take it. Me personally, I probably would have took it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I see that gap all the way down. I have reason to believe Apple's going to just start heading down there at that point. So let's see what happens. Oh, I didn't use the projection tool, so give me a minute. So our target would be, we're already heading there. So yeah, we pretty much made profit already. Okay. But still, I want to see it move towards this gap fill, right? As you guys can see, we're forming another supply and demand zone. And there you go. A little weird move, but you still made profit. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you guys understand how to trade supply and demand zones and how to make them. If you have any questions, go ahead, comment below. I know it's replay mode. I know it's cheap to use replay mode, but that's the best way I can go about, teaching this strategy. Back test it, try it out in real time, or try it in paper trading, whatever you decide to do. If you have a hard time still marking supply and demand zones or support and resistance, order blocks, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to call them, Chart Prime has the indicators for you in the description below. But I highly recommend that you learn how to trade or mark these on your own before you start using indicators. That way you can understand how they work and how they are formed. Okay, you're like one with the charts at that point. Okay. So again, chart prime indicators for you, they got it all. Trend lines, all that fun stuff. If you are new to the stock market and you want to start trading, you want to start investing into stocks, Robinhood link is in the description below. You get a free stock when you join. You get to choose between Microsoft, Apple, all that fun stuff. So check that out. And that's all I have. So until the next video, traders, have a good one.